Hello everybody, my name is Ken Dixon and I, with attorney Joseph Glaser, am co-author of Mieter and Vermieter, a Handbook of Rental Law for Americans in Germany. Now that book has been out for a little bit over a year now, and it is available on Amazon Kindle and Amazon Kindle Unlimited. And we are getting ready to put together the second edition right now. And to get things going on that, we decided to put together a couple of excerpts from the first edition so you could know what the book is all about and what it covers. And today we're going to go over a little bit of the differences between German rental versus American rental. And the reason is because when you come to Germany to stay for any extended period of time, you're obviously going to need to rent a space. And the fundamentals of renting a place in Germany are the same as what you'd find in renting in the United States. There's a contract, there's a deposit, and there's regularly paid rent. However, from that point on, the similarities, for the most part, end, and some of the differences emerge. Now, some of those differences that we're going to cover over today are, one is landlord-tenant law. U.S. law related to landlord-tenant issues are primarily focused on the state level. Therefore, in the U.S., laws are going to have notable differences from state to state. For example, there could be significant contrast in laws in Oregon versus what you'd find in Florida. By comparison, German landlord-tenant law is a subset of the German legal code. It's known as the BGB. And having been enforced since 1900, the BGB has a section that covers property law, including rentals. And those are paragraphs 535 to 580A. And those are known as the Mietrecht. These sections are only a few paragraphs long. If you have a Google Translate or another translate application, you could read these all by yourself if you wanted to. And they provide a foundation for German landlord-tenant law. The remaining guidelines come from case law, and this is a rarity in German law because case law is not used most of the time. Additionally, the Mietrecht went through a significant refinement in the 1970s and the 2000s in favor of the tenant during times of significant property speculation. The modifications were established to protect the tenant, because landlords would commonly rid themselves of tenants in order to replace them with higher paying tenants. So that's item number one. Now, item number two is the duration of a lease. Tenants in the US are renting the property for a fixed period of time. In the cases of houses and apartments, the period of time is typically 1 year, with a renewal on the contract the following year. In contrast, most German tenants will remain for an indefinite period of time in a rental unit. They'll remain in the property until they decide to vacate, or unless the landlord decides for a very specific reason. There's a very finite group of reasons why the landlord can choose to end the lease. In some cases, tenants can stay in these units for decades. German landlords, they have a preference for a tenant who will stay an extended period of time because it allows them to count on a steady stream of revenue. Now, dovetailing off of that, the third item is rental cost increases. With the U.S. tenant renewing on an annual basis, each year brings a new contract, and each contract brings the opportunity for the landlord to increase the cost. By comparison, the German landlord has few opportunities to increase the cost of the lease. Furthermore, the landlord has to justify the increase with documentation and requires the approval of the renter to go on ahead and do that. The other item here that we want to cover is operating costs. Now, commonly with US renters, there's one all-encompassing cost to pay the landlord, and that's the rent. That cost not only covers the renting of the residence, but the landlord is expected to cover the additional costs such as items that are related to property. Some of these costs can include caretaker, yard maintenance, garbage collection, etc. In contrast, almost all German landlords pass these costs on to the renter by the way of an annual invoice, commonly referred to as the Betriebskosten. Then the other item is the ending of the lease. If a tenant is looking to withdraw from the lease in the US before the end of the contract, they can expect to make some type of penalty payment to the landlord. A German tenant, by contrast, can in most cases anticipate exiting the lease effortlessly with a 90-day notice to the landlord. And then the final item, it's not necessarily related to landlord-tenant law, but it's worth mentioning. And that is under the classification of bring your own items. Although not directly related, it's a stark difference and it's worth mentioning. Many rentals in Germany do not have items that are typical in US rentals. These can include oven, refrigerator, dishwasher, laundry machine, and even a closet. If you're at an apartment or house viewing and a tenant lives there, ask the landlord what appliances are included. And if none are, it may be helpful to ask if the tenant is looking to sell the appliances that are currently there. Now, these are an idea of the differences between renting in the two countries. Now, that's not to say that one country is better than the other. Instead, it's to say that there are notable contrasts that you should be on the lookout for. So that is our first look at an excerpt from Mieter and Vermieter, a Handbook of Rental Law for Americans living in Germany. And as I mentioned before, the first edition is available on Amazon Kindle and Amazon Kindle Unlimited. And if you like what you heard today, hit the like button and we'll go on ahead. And if we get enough likes, we'll go on ahead and put out another part of this for you to check out. And of course, we always appreciate your comments. Thank you.